Adadanastranandan Daividam Yache Puna Puna Srimarupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janajanmani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare
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 Rama
Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Mantakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhuveva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. I wasn't really expecting to speak first, but anyway, ever since I joined the Indian Yatra here, specifically in Vrindavan, over 35 years ago, then I came to know this wonders. I was always very much in awe of him, such a dedicated soul. He went to America to get a job and make lots of money. And somehow or other he ran into Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said in his lecture, the famous verse that who's ever taken his birth in India, he should make his life successful and help others. And he thought, what am I doing? Huh? He was born in a nice Brahmin family from Surat. Surat was one of those places where Prabhupada got the best reception we've ever seen anywhere in the world. So then he considered joining, and finally he joined and served in Chicago. And Prabhupada asked him to build a temple in Surat. When Prabhupada found out he was from Surat, then he said, you build a temple in Surat. And not only Yasomatinandan built a beautiful temple in Surat, but a beautiful temple in Ahmedabad, so many beautiful temples. He inundated the whole of Gujarat with Krishna consciousness. And such an incredible temple he built all the temples are beautiful. But that temple in Ahmedabad is just, I'm always in awe that how much Prabhupada must be pleased for him for making this huge temple and contacting so many important people in Gujarat, bringing them to Prabhupada's lotus feet. And every year we were there for the opening of that beautiful temple, Radha Govinda Dham. That was huge program, very wonderful program. And every year on the anniversary day, even though this is also the anniversary, Ram Navami is also the anniversary day of our Vrindavan temple, but just because of our love for Yasomatinandan. So every year for Ram Navami, that's the only reason we went, just so we could get association with Yasomatinandan and see his determination and his faith in Srila Prabhupada. We've heard the story how he was on those walks on the beach in Juhu, and Dr. Patel was always arguing with Prabhupada, but somehow he said, I don't know why, I'm attracted to Prabhupada, I'm not attracted to any other saints or sadhus. And Yasu answered, there's only one sadhu, that's Prabhupada. So just to get some of his association and his faith in Srila Prabhupada, I used to leave Vrindavan and go for the Ram Navami program there in Ahmedabad and to listen to his lectures, always very learned lectures. He was very well read in Prabhupada's books. He told the story how during the opening of Krishna Balaram Mandir, Prabhupada sent him to Karpatri Maharaj, who was the leading Mayavadi of the day back in 1975, to invite him to the program. And Karpatri said, I can't come. And he said, why? He said, because your Guru Maharaj is making Brahmins out of Westerners. We can't accept this. And Jasho said, but they're shaving their heads, they're putting on tilak, they're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to Mangalarti, they're studying Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vedic literatures. They don't do any nonsense, and they're completely acting like Brahmins. And your Indian Brahmins, they're getting jobs in factories and rickshawalas and business and so many things. And he refused to accept his arguments. And anyway, the argument went back and forth. To make a short story, long story short, finally he said he refused to accept that they could be Brahmins. And then there's a verse in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th chapter, the very last verse, that whatever lakshan, whatever quality one has, if one sees the quality of a Brahmin and a Sudra, that Sudra should be accepted as a Brahmin. If one sees the quality of a Sudra and a Brahmin, that Brahmin should be accepted as a Sudra. And then Karpati Maharaj said, yeah, your Guru Maharaj has trained you so well. So he had so much mercy from Srila Prabhupada. It was always inspiring to be in his association. I can't believe that I was really thinking he was going to pull through this time. But somehow Krishna had some will. Prabhupada has some other service for him somewhere. Yashomatinandan Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Deen Bandhu Prabhu, thank you very much.
Maharaj, a humble request to, you have to unmute him. Unmute Nava Yogendra Swami and, okay,
Unmute.
Maharaj, you can begin. You're unmuted now.
Okay. I am very unhappy to hear the sad demise of my dear God brother, His Grace Jashomatinandana Das. We didn't expect like this that he will leave so soon. So in his memory, I will sing this song we generally sung in the separation of Vaishnavas. Ye anilo prema karuna pruchu. Ye anilo prema dhan English karuna prachu. He na Prabhu kotha kela Acharya Thakur Prabhu kotha kaha mora sarupa rupa kaha sanata kaha mora kaha das raghunata patita pava kaha das kaha mora bhat yuga kaha kabira kaha mora eka kale kotha gela gaura natara eka kale kotha gela Pashane kutibo mata anile pashibo Pashane kutibo mata anile pashibo Gauranga gunera nidhi kotha gele pavo Gauranga gun sei sava sangira sange ye koilo bila sei sava sangi sei sang na paya kande narotamda sei sang na paya ye anilo prema dhan karuna pracho ye anilo prema dhan karuna pracho ena prabhu kota gela acharya thakur ena prabhu kota jaya acharya thakur jaya acharya thakur jaya Jashomatinandan jaya Jashomatinandan jaya Jashomatinandan jaya Jashomatinandan jaya Jashomatinandan jaya jaya Jashomatinandan jaya Jashomatinandan जो अपराकृत प्रेम का धन लेकर आए थे तथा जो करुणा के भंडार थे ऐसे श्रील श्रीनिवासाचार्य ठाकुर कहाँ गए मेरे श्रील स्वरूप दामोदर श्रील रूप गोस्वामी कहाँ हैं श्रील सनातन कहाँ हैं पतित पावन श्रील रघुनाथ दास कहाँ हैं मेरे श्रील रघुनाथ भट्ट और श्रील गोपाल भट्ट कहाँ हैं और श्रील कृष्णदास कविराज कहाँ हैं महान नर्तक श्री श्री गौरांग महाप्रभु को एकाएक कहाँ चले गए मैं अपना सर चट्टान में मारकर फोड़ डालूंगा और अग्नि में कूद पड़ूंगा सभी दिव्य गुणों के निधि स्वरूप श्री श्री गौरांग महाप्रभु को कहाँ पाऊंगा श्री श्री गौरांग महाप्रभु एवं उनके साथ लीला करने वाले संगियों का संग ना पाकर नरोत्तम दास माता रो रहा है I am very unhappy to know this that my dear God brother Srila Jashomatinandan has left this world. We didn't think that he will leave so soon. Me and him, we were together in Bombay, and he has so much mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada made him the cashier there because he was very good in taking care of Krishna's money. I remember one happened in front of me. One elderly man was staying in Bombay temple, and he came to Jasho, and he said that I want money for a taxi. I want to go home. So Jasho said that you have your sons, they earn so much money. Why don't you get money from them? So this elderly man said, I don't want to be a burden on my sons. Jasho said, then you want to be burden on Krishna? So he was so good in taking care of Krishna's money, Prabhupada's money. And he is the founder Chari of ISKCON in Gujarat. He started Gujarat in ISKCON. Prabhupada sent him to Gujarat. He was in Bombay. And he sacrificed his, he was a master of engineering. He did in the US. He has a good job. But he left everything for the pleasure of Guru Gauranga and Krishna. He has so much sacrifice. And I really miss him very much. I feel very sad that My god brother has suddenly left. We all have to leave one day. Nobody is going to be here. But these kind of devotees, those who are under so much service to Srila Prabhupada, they are a great loss to this movement. Jashomatinandan is a great loss. He was wonderful Vaishnava, wonderful devotee, with so many wonderful qualities. I'm very, very sorry. I'm very deep stricken for the sad demise of Jashomatinandan. I pray to Krishna, please bless his soul, give his soul shelter under his lotus feet. Hare Krishna, all glories to Jashomatinandan.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much, His Holiness Navayogadhar Maharaj Ji. I am request His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj Ji to speak.
Before Bhakti Rasamrita Swami speaks, I want to read a message from Bhakti Raghava Swami, if you don't mind. Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, if you don't mind, unmute. You have to unmute Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj.
Okay, Maharaj. Okay, Prabhu.
So, I mean, Bhakti Raghava Swami has sent a message. Since he doesn't have a good,
I have unmuted.
internet connection. So I can read that out.
Yes, Prabhuji.
My dear Jasomatinandan Prabhu, I read, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I read for the first time yesterday your most heartfelt written letter to Srila Prabhupada in 1973. And just by that one letter, I could gain an even much greater understanding and appreciation of your dedication and love for our Srila Prabhupada. Amazing letter indeed, and no wonder Srila Prabhupada requested that it be published in his Back to Godhead magazine. When I visited your temple in Ahmedabad a few years back, and this was many years after visiting the older temple in Ahmedabad, I was awestruck at the exquisite architecture and grandeur of the temple, especially Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan. To me, it was a clear testimony of your deep love and affection for Srila Prabhupada. The last time we met for the longest was in Bombay during ISKCON's Golden Jubilee when I interviewed you on the topic of Varnashram. Although you were not well, you graciously gave me your valuable time to answer various questions. Your assistant, whom I had not met before, Vishnu Nam Prabhu, confessed to me personally after the interview that he never knew that you were such a staunch supporter of Varnashram Dharma, to your credit. We will all miss you. Thank you very much for your unswerving dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission and for the outstanding and exemplary preaching work in Gujarat. You will be remembered by many. You are surely with Srila Prabhupada. Please send us your blessings. May Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada continue to engage you in their eternal loving service wherever that may be. We will see you soon. Your servant in Srila Prabhupada's mission, Bhakti Raghava Swami. So now, Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, you have the floor.
Hare Krishna. So, one by one, all the stalwarts are leaving, and it is hard to come to terms with it. Yes, we all know the philosophy, body, soul. We are not the body. But nevertheless, amongst Vaishnavas, there is not only the philosophical understanding, but there is also the heart that we don't want to lose the Vapu, the physical association of Vaishnavas, and especially of Vaishnavas of the caliber of Jashomatinandan Prabhu. With Jashomatinandan Prabhu's passing away, it is an end of an era, or at least a very significant event in Gujarat. He was the blazer for developing the preaching in Gujarat. And of course, his presence was felt all over India as well and all over ISKCON. But specifically in Gujarat, he was the driving force And Srila Prabhupada must have been very, very pleased with all that he has done in Gujarat. He was a total Srila Prabhupada man and completely and totally dedicated. And his spirit remained even after he fell seriously ill some years ago and had to undergo so many surgeries and hospitalization. But still, he remained very active to the extent that his body permitted. And even though his speech was getting slurred, but he was very much active all the time. In Jashomatinandan Prabhu's personality, we saw a rare combination of qualities. He was very scholarly. His favorite book was the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he would quote very copiously from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And very eloquent, he knew the philosophy very deeply and very well. And at the same time, he was also an astute manager, very sharp. And he could grasp things very well, whether it came to human nature or to actual managing money or resources and everything, making plans, which is why we see that so many wonderful, big, huge temples have come up in Gujarat. I doubt if there is any other state in India which has seen so many large projects coming up in the span of some years. All across from Vadodara to Ahmedabad, Surat, and especially these three that come to mind readily, and other temples have also been coming, all under his, shall we say, guidance and inspiration. And as far as the Bureau is concerned, ISKCON Bureau, it will definitely be a great loss. His inputs reduced over the last few years because of health, but nevertheless, his contributions, his presence will be very, very greatly missed. Personally, I have very, very fond memories of him from, past 30 years when I first met him. And he used to visit also when I used to be based in Bombay, and he would stay with me sometimes at a place where I was doing some projects. And it's very hard to believe that he's no longer there, in spite of us knowing that he was so seriously sick. So I think it is a time for us to get more prepared. Devotees are just leaving us. But I think we will all be remembering Yashomatinandan Prabhu very, very deeply. And I'm absolutely sure that he's well situated at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Wherever Prabhupada wants him to be in Goloka Vrindavan, or whether he wants him to be starting some temple somewhere else, he will do that. His Grace Yashomatinandan Prabhu ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I didn't thank all the speakers. Thank you, Dinabandhu Prabhu, Navayogendra Swami, and Bhakti Rasamrita Swami. And now Bhakti Prem Maharaj can speak.
Banchakalpatar Brashya Vibhashanda Devacha Titana Pavana Prabhashna Vanavana. It is a great loss for us. Jashomatinandan Prabhu was my hero. He served Srila Prabhupada's divine mission for about 50 years with unwavering determination despite his unfavorable health condition. He was fully surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. Many Indian boys dreamed to settle in USA, but he returned to India after completing his civil engineering in USA, because Srila Prabhupada instructed him to preach in Gujarat. Srila Prabhupada said that his spiritual master was sending some special souls to assist him in his mission. Such devotees left aside all personal consideration for the service to Srila Prabhupada. HG Jashomatinandana Prabhu supervised translation of Srila Prabhupada's book into Gujarati language. He started the first center at Ahmedabad way back in 1975. Now there are more than 15 temples in Gujarat under his guidance. He took manifold responsibilities to spread Srila Prabhupada's mission. He was temple president of Surat and Ahmedabad. At the same time, though he is a board member, took so many responsibilities, managerial things. Devotees recall him as a commander in Srila Prabhupada's army for book distribution. In Gujarat, book distribution is famous for his presence. I had last year, Ahmedabad temple only distributed 135,000 Bhagavad Gita only, marathon. In the initial days, he used to go to door using bicycle to distribute Prabhupada's book. Under his leadership, ISKCON Ahmedabad has one of the most magnificent Rath Jatra festival. Not only Ahmedabad, Surat, and so many places. He was fond of Jagannath. His class very like when he gave class, always quotes. Without quoting from scripture, he don't say anything else. Hundreds of verses in one lecture. He is fond of Bengali, especially Chaitanya the Vaishnava song. In his class, so many Bengali songs he quoted. He came to Ujjain also for GBC meeting in 2017. He had a lot of affection for our Ujjain devotees. When some of our devotees went to Ahmedabad for preaching, he even changed the prasadam schedule for the temple to make them feel comfortable. He was always very enthusiastic to preach, despite his unfavorable health condition. He told the devotees, please call me whenever you want me to speak. Although it is said that one moon is better than many stars, but all of Srila Prabhupada's dedicated servants are like moons. Although we wholeheartedly accept Krishna's plan as ultimate, but we feel deeply aggrieved because of separation from such an inspiring Vaishnava. HG Jashomatinandan Prabhu ki Jagat ki Srila Prabhupada Gautami.
Thank you, Maharaj. Nishingananda Prabhu was there, but I think he left. Are you
I'm still
there?
here. I'm
You're
here.
there? Okay.
Yep.
I'm calling on Nishingananda Prabhu, ITV Los Angeles, and a senior godbrother to speak.
Vanchakalpatarviyascha kripasindhuveva chapatitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha. I could always count on Yasho to enliven me about Srila Prabhupada and his pastimes. He had a perfect memory. I remember his telling me about his initiation when he was asked spontaneously, well, if you want initiation, Yasho told me, then Prabhupada, the devotee said, I had to shave my head. But of course I was working at the time. So I was wondering, how am I going to do this with a shaved head? And the devotee said, don't worry, it'll grow back. Later on, Srila Prabhupada said the same thing to him. So then he got initiated. He shaved his head in Detroit and got initiated, but he never went back to the job. He actually felt, well, I'm just going to go to Chicago and join the temple, which he did as a brahmachari. And of course, being from Chicago, Ashu Ghosh is also from Chicago. It warms my heart and created a connection with us. And his relationship with Prabhupada and his parents also was similar to my own experiences. He remembers what he remembered. He told me the story when he was there when Giri Raswami's parents came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and his father had said to Prabhupada, is there anything that I can do for you? Because I'll do it gladly if you'll let my son come back home. And Prabhupada looked at Giriraj, and Giriraj said, there's no power that's going to separate me from you, he said. And Prabhupada told the father, I can't force him to leave. And I assure you, he'll be very happy and very peaceful here. And the father went away very happily. So in 1974, when Yaso went back to India, his parents had also appealed to Srila Prabhupada to give them back their son. But instead, Prabhupada invited the parents, giving them a place to stay at the temple. And he told them, there's so many persons who go to America to make money, but your son is a very rare person. And his mother, Yaso's mother, later on said, your Guru Maharaj is a very kind person. And in that way, Srila Prabhupada won over the parents, as just like he did with Giriraj Swami. And that was very meaningful to me because my mother had always been somewhat antithetical and had long, lengthy letter conversations with Srila Prabhupada. And eventually, Srila Prabhupada, even in his absence, won over my mother. So this is the power. And this is always the great thing about Yaso, is that he was full of these stories that actually related to, things that actually practically happened in our life. And he also had the best questions to ask. I mean, if there was anybody that would ask the questions you wanted to know from Srila Prabhupada, you look back and you can see that Yaso was asking these questions. Like he would ask a question like, Srila Prabhupada, how did Lord Ramachandra disappear? Something that just we don't see so much in books. And Prabhupada said, devotees don't speak so much about the Lord's disappearance. It's not very discussed amongst devotees. Or Yaso would ask about Rupa Goswami. He said, why did he feel so low that he couldn't enter Sanatana, the Jagannath temple? And Prabhupada answered, as Yaso related, that, because they had associated with Muslims and perhaps even had adopted some of their practices, they didn't feel very qualified. They were very humble. But everything they did was dictated by Krishna, so it doesn't matter what they'd done. And you could count on Yaso to kind of give the answers to questions that we carry sometimes and we don't know the answers to, and we don't even know that Prabhupada answered them. But he was just so full of remembrances of Srila Prabhupada. It's what occupied his brain. And the whole issue of that he related to me, for example, when the Bali Mardan incident happened in New York, and he told in relating that story, he said, well, Prabhupada said that everything relates to sex life. And, we're having so many problems because of this and illicit sex. But he said that Prabhupada took only 5 minutes to explain, and then he just reduced it to a philosophical understanding, and that was the end of it. And that was Yaso. He would explain things. Sometimes he would take a position on things, but he was really, he would just leave it as a philosophical point, and your personal relationship with him just carried on. It was never broken. It was always a friendship. And that was the beauty of having Yaso as a friend, that you felt it was for your life. And his departure is very sad, because when you have that kind of a friendship that surmounts any kind of philosophical difference, and you can always rely on that friendship to inspire you from Srila Prabhupada's activities, memories, books, philosophy, it's a great loss, a personal loss. And I think the amount of people who are on this testimonial today, so many have shown up, shows what a great impact his personality has had on so many other people. It's just a great loss. And I just pray that someday I can again have the association of someone like of Yaso himself in the spiritual world. That would be the greatest gain. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Nishingananda Prabhu. Sarvadrik Prabhu is a god brother. Sarvadrik, you want to say something? You don't have to speak for a long time. I mean, it's up to you. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did, Prabhu.
Okay,
So basically,
you're next.
devotees can check out to Bichakapa, Sindhi, Vichapatitanam, Bhavani, Vivashanam. So first, condolences to all devotees. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, condolences to all devotees that were close to Yashomatinandan Prabhu. I wasn't as fortunate as most of you. Family members and spiritual family members that spent time. Many of you must have been brought to Krishna Bhakti by his preaching, since he expanded Krishna Bhakti all over Gujarat. So my condolences to all of you. You must be in deep pain. I wasn't as fortunate as you. I visited Ahmedabad Temple many years ago and was very kindly hosted by his generous Vaishnava etiquette. So condolences to all of you, but my reflection is not so much personal because I didn't have personal association of him to any extent, but more philosophical. What we're experiencing today, we should get used to, because all of us who were initiated by Srila Prabhupada are old men and old women. And more will have to experience this pain of separation that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described as intolerable. That one thing that is intolerable pain is separation from a Vaishnava. So Prabhupada said, this is the law of material nature, no one can check it. This is our experience, and we'll be experiencing this more and more. But the purport of this should be for those younger devotees, many of you, there's 300 devotees, 300 plus devotees on this Sangha. Those of you that will survive, the responsibility of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON is coming to you sooner than you think. Every year, more and more God brothers and God sisters leave. So the task at hand is for you to fill the void left by these great devotees. Don't think it's not possible. We have a God brother, his name is Shivananda Prabhu, who stays at Prabhupada village. He was the first devotee to go to Europe. Shivananda Prabhu is a wonderful devotee, but from a material point of view, he's completely inept. He's like a pure devotee, but really can't accomplish very much. But Srila Prabhupada asked him, you go to Europe. So he went to Europe and he opened up the whole European yatra single-handedly on Srila Prabhupada's order. So there's great power in just following Srila Prabhupada's order without deviation. So all of you will stay and all of us must leave in due course of time. So my request to you on behalf of Srila Prabhupada is to take this movement more seriously, because it's meant to expand to every town and village. There's millions of people that have never heard of Krishna. I used to do prison preaching when I was in the United States, and then I'd have to be escorted in to the jail. People would ask me, seeing my dhoti, tilak, shikha, well, you must be some kind of religion. What are you? They'd never heard. I say, Hare Krishna, what's that? They never heard. What is Hare Krishna? There's millions of people that have never heard Krishna's name. And it's your responsibility to broadcast the glories of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all over the world. That responsibility is coming to you very quickly. And this is just one more reminder that it's coming to you. So all glories to Yashomatinandan Prabhu, and all glories to all of you that have been touched by his lives. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Savadrik Prabhu. He's in Mayapur, for those of you who don't know him. He's residing at Mayapur in retirement. Rajahari Prabhu, president of Juhu Temple, I humbly request you to speak. Surdas, you're next. Get ready.
So, Srila Prabhupada disciples, gradually they are leaving us just right after Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, and such a great shock came when 15 days before Jasomatinandana Prabhu admitted in the hospital in COVID-19. Although in between we are getting a message that he's better and he's going to come back. And one day he was actually came out from we are in the meeting, they showed that he's coming same day. But again, he got admitted, and very soon he just passed away. Yesterday, whole day we are in big anxiety. We are always counting because they give very bad news that he's 5% chance for his survival. But I knew Jasomatinandan Prabhu since I joined in ISKCON 1984. So Prabhuji used to come to Sankirtan office. That time I was looking after the Sankirtan department in Juhu to take books from us. And those days, BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, was not able to produce a lot of books because binding and many other technical things are there, which was very difficult to print. And Gujarati books also, Bombay Temple needs more. But Jasomatinandan Prabhu, he used to come and fight with everybody. Bhima Prabhu, Devakinandan, me, and he will search our Godang where we have hide uh, Gujarati books. And then he used to take our books for Gujarat. And Gujarat, Ahmedabad Temple and Juhu Temple, we have big competition those days for book distribution. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go on.
So there is a big competition, but very neck to neck. Although Jashomatinandan Prabhu, so the book distribution, we have neck to neck competition. And but Jasomatinandan Prabhu used to give a very good fight with and after marathon used to have together get together in Surat or somewhere. Gujarat devotees and Bombay devotees. So it was very nice, healthy competition. And one thing I can tell you, like devotees told that he's Prabhupada man and he's ISKCON man. So in early 90s, when there was uh, disturbance in ISKCON about the Gopi Bhav club. If you remember those days, many senior devotees, they wanted to invite Narayan Maharaj, and there was big disturbance was going on. So that time, Jasomatinandan Prabhu and Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, they together, they wrote very nice article to in favor of ISKCON and against the Gopi Bhav club. And those 14-page article was there. And those days there was no email facilities. In our Juhu temple, only Bhisma department, there were email. So before GBC meeting, they asked me to send to all GBC member. And we sent from our Juhu Bhisma department email to all GBC member. And after that, actually in GBC meeting, it was discussion took place, and that article what they wrote, it was so nice, and everybody agreed, and that solved the problem. And as many of the speaker, they spoke about his scholarly thing. Jasomatinandan Prabhu is a very scholarly, scholar extraordinary actually. He all the Prabhupada books he has thoroughly well read, and after reading again and again he was reading, and whenever he goes in flight or train, he always carry Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavata, and always he reads and always give very nice presentation. But last many years, he, because of his speech problem, otherwise before, he used to give very extraordinary class, and he used to come to Bombay very often, and we very very much fortunate to hear his lectures those days. And another great, he's like Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj told, that he's a very good manager. And also Navajanandra Maharaj told how he's a good manager. And he wanted to keep Prabhupada's property and money intact. So in Gujarat farm, which is 100 acres, got from Pranilal Bhogilal. So he had a big fight up to the Supreme Court, but finally he won the case, and ultimately Ahmedabad got the that 100 acres of land. So like that, many good things he has done, and he was BBT trustee and our bureau member, zonal secretary, and as well as he was managing all the temples, Ahmedabad, Surat, directly he was handling, and under his leadership, so many temples just came, and latest one was Rajkot, such a massive big temple, and it is, and also because of his preaching, all the nice temple came, and he's a very lovable person. And Gujarat, I saw when last time I went, he was going for his heart surgery. So many devotees came from different parts of Gujarat and who loved him so much, and they asked many questions to him. And next day he's supposed to go to the hospital, but he was answering everybody question very nicely. So I don't want to take more time. I just
Yeah.
I am praying to Sri Sri Radharaswari that to give us enough strength to bear the Jasomatinandan Prabhu's disappearance, and I am praying that let him, like Bhaktichar Maharaj, he will go back to Prabhupada and do some service there. That is our humble wish. So
Thank you,
thank
Braja Hari Prabhu. Maharaj, a humble request to keep it to 5 or 10 minutes. Humble request. Thank you.
Panchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhyo Vishnuvebhyo namo namaha. So my obeisances unto Yasomatinandan Prabhu and all the assembled devotees. Really, what to speak, so much to speak, difficult to speak on an occasion like this. But our brother, Prabhupada used to say that we leave few brothers or few sisters behind. And as we come to Krishna consciousness, you get so many brothers and so many sisters. So I very much thank Srila Prabhupada for giving me a Jashomatinandan Prabhu like brother. And when Krishna consciousness works, we really we miss him. I miss him. I'm sure we all miss him. Because we have developed very friendly, spiritual, which I suppose not sure for sure we have that eternal relationship. So, and as that temporarily relationship has broken, we feel separation, we feel lost. I mean, Jasomatinandan. Yeah, you go to the West. Prabhupada was asked preach in Western world in English language, and here Jasomatinandan Prabhu was asked, "What are you doing here? Go back to India, go back to Gujarat, and preach there." And receiving this instruction, Jashomatinandan Prabhu took that really seriously to his heart. And of course, before going to Gujarat, he was in Mumbai at Hare Krishna land. And Jashomatinandan Prabhu was a very intelligent person, very knowledgeable person. Born in Brahmin family, of course, he was a Joshi. On morning walks on Juhu Beach, he always used to be next to Srila Prabhupada. And during the debates with Dr. Patel, Jashomatinandan Prabhu would sometimes come in the middle and defend Srila Prabhupada. So seeing the interventions, Jashomatinandan Prabhu's interventions, Dr. Patel used to call him Joshi Maharaj, you're Joshi Maharaj. And then later on, we know that Srila Prabhupada also used to call him Joshi Maharaj. He used to spend a lot of time around Srila Prabhupada also, getting Srila Prabhupada's association, massaging Srila Prabhupada late into the night. We heard so many times from Jasomatinandan how he went on and on with the massage, and Prabhupada never asked him to stop, and it could be till midnight sometimes. Jasomatinandan is still massaging Srila Prabhupada. Yasomatinandana Prabhu and Srila Prabhupada had a very special, intimate, and friendly relationship also. They enjoyed. So finally, Jasomatinandan Prabhu did end up in Gujarat. And in one of the letters, Prabhupada had also asked Jasomatinandan Prabhu to translate his books into Gujarati. And Prabhupada said, as they're translated, we could publish them in BTG. I said in Gujarati BTG. And if you are willing, we could have a Gujarati BTG and you be the editor. So this publishing, translation, publishing. And then in meantime, he became trustee of India BBT. And he was publishing books in translating, printing, publishing, and distribution. He used to have competitions. He had so many buses one time, so many traveling buses, book distributions. And he has won many marathons in distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. I think amongst the different states in India, Gujarat, Krishna consciousness wise, is kind of more developed if we compare Gujarat with other states. In a number of temple wise, and they're huge temples, monuments and landmarks. Ahmedabad temple or Gujarat, Baroda temple, and so many temples. Dwarka also. Under his leadership, the farm community also in Gujarat. So Gujarat, under Jasomatinandan Prabhu's leadership, has flourished and kind of established quite nicely. So I was thinking, well, as Jashomatinandan Prabhu has created and established Krishna consciousness. And it was Srila Prabhupada's instruction to him to preach in Gujarat, all over Gujarat. So he good start. Things have started on a right footing, and however, what he has created, what he has built, is to be maintained and further expansion till Krishna consciousness reaches every town, every village of Gujarat, and places are created and maintained. So I also think that we are talking, glorifying him, and this is also our Shraddhanjali, our offering to Jasomatinandan Prabhu, remembering, chanting his glory. However, the best offering, best Shraddhanjali, continue. It's Prabhupada's mission, it's Gauranga's mission, Prabhupada's mission, then it became Jasomatinandan Prabhu's mission in Gujarat. So let us do our best to further promote, propagate, establish Krishna consciousness all over Gujarat, and all our efforts in that regard towards that end would be our offering unto Yasomatinandana. Marathon, year after year, the number of Bhagavad Gita distributed was increasing, especially in Ahmedabad. Of course, Gopal Krishna Maharaj also used to go and inspire, and Jasomatinandan used to be behind. And again, marathon is around the corner. So more book distribution, and more every year, more and more. So this was, so Jasomatinandan Prabhu was in that mood and was behind all that. So keep that spirit and keep those efforts on. Is now becomes a duty or obligation towards those who are left behind. He has gone forward, gone towards Prabhupada, gone to the lotus feet of Radha Govind, and giving us some homework for us to do. So we should understand what that one is and do our heart for the pleasure. Jasomatinandan Prabhu. Jasomatinandan Prabhu. Ki.
Thank
Prabhupada.
you, Maharaj. Gopal Krishna Maharaj just came, but before he came, Radhanath Swami, I had asked him to speak. I'm asking Gopal Krishna Maharaj, I'm asking the devotees to speak one by one. I haven't spoken. So Radhanath Maharaj, you have the floor, and then Gopal Krishna Maharaj.
I'll wait for some time.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I am very much beside myself in separation from this glorious Vaishnava, beloved disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and very dear friend, His Grace Yashomatinandan Prabhu. I believe it was in 1972 or 1973 when I first met with Yasomatinandan Prabhu. I was visiting the temple in Chicago. It was in Evanston at that time. And somehow or other, we met immediately, and we spent hours and hours. In fact, as far as I remember, we stayed up practically all night just talking. I was so, and he was quite excited that I had just come from living in Vrindavan for almost a year. And it was at that time I learned so much from him about his one-pointed love and devotion to Srila Prabhupada. Vyavasayatmaka budhire keha kuru nandana bahushaka hyanantascha budhayo vyavashayanam. Srila Prabhupada, when he read this verse, that one who was on this path of devotional service is resolute in purpose and their aim is one. Srila Prabhupada extracted the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that this means to make the order of one's spiritual master one's life and soul. Srila Prabhupada would so often present this idea as the very basis of the Krishna consciousness movement, that he personally made the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, his very life and soul. And Yasomatinandan Prabhu, wholeheartedly, he made Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's mission his life and soul. As was said, he was working, he had a respectable job in America, which so many people from India are aspiring to do, especially in those days. It was very, very rare. And he gave it all up on the invitation of Srila Prabhupada to come back to India to help him spread this movement. And when Yasomatinandan Prabhu came, he was so attracted to Srila Prabhupada in every way. Not only did he have access to the inner circles of Srila Prabhupada's association, but Srila Prabhupada trusted him. He entrusted to him the state of Gujarat. At the time, there was practically nothing there. And Yasomatinandan Prabhu, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, His Grace Basu Ghosh Prabhu, these great exalted worshipable Vaishnavas, what they have done in Gujarat. Yasomatinandan Prabhu, it was practically an insurmountable, impossible task what Srila Prabhupada dreamed would be in Gujarat. And Yasomatinandan Prabhu, he made that dream come true. Translations of all of Srila Prabhupada's books in the Gujarati language, the publication, mass distribution of those books have been inspired by the heroic, historical, devoted service of His Grace Yasomatinandan. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Radhanath Maharaj. Thank you, Lokanath Maharaj, if I didn't thank you.
No, it's not coming through. Basu Ghosh Prabhu, Bhakti Vikas Swami speaking.
Yeah, you can speak.
I just want to say that I don't want to speak now because I want to speak for at least 15 or 20 minutes, and I'll do so in a YouTube presentation a little later. I'd love to hear you speak.
Well, yeah.
You could speak for hours and hours and hours about him, no doubt. You had more association about apart from his wife and his family members, you had more association with him over the years than anyone.
Well, Gopal Krishna Maharaj had plenty of association.
Yeah. But you had a lot. You used to be on the phone with him every day for years, practically.
Right.
Let others speak now. Let others speak now. I'll speak later. I'm planning on that.
Homages Timanandasya. That's my Shri Gurave Namaha. Can I speak in Hindi or English?
जैसे आपका इच्छा है महाराज हिंदी में अगर बोलना है हिंदी में गुरु भाई लोग हैं जो जानते हैं
So, Jasomatinandana, maybe repeating points that others have spoken, so please excuse me for that. Jasomatinandana, he got to study like many of us do, and he met Prabhupada. And Prabhupada saw him as a very intelligent boy, coming from a Brahminical family, Joshi. And Prabhupada gave him a special instruction. Go and preach in Gujarat. So he came to India, and I came to India in March 75. He was already here for 2 years or so. And as Lokanath Swami said, he was serving in Bombay at that time. So he was serving in Bombay, and he used to accompany Prabhupada every day on his walks on the beach. And as you heard, he used to massage Prabhupada almost every night till late in the night. His 2 years in Bombay were his training ground. He was being trained in how to start a temple. He went to Ahmedabad, I believe in 76. Asa Ghosh can correct me. And the first temple in Ahmedabad was in a rented house. It was a rented house, and we were there for a long time, for a few years. But at the same time, we had the desire to build a big temple in Ahmedabad. So Yasomatinandana, the location where our temple is right now, that location, when in the beginning, was quite deserted. I remember Yasomatinandana brought me here and said, this is where we want to buy land. He was a good visionary, and he could foresee this area where the temple is has become a very prominent place. And now it has become a very prominent location. So we bought land at that time when we were still in a rented house. And Yasomatinandana was also a very good financial manager. He would make sure that Prabhupada's money is not wasted. So then we bought this land. How many acres was it? Was it about 8 acres?
Where? Which land?
The land where the temple is now.
In Ahmedabad?
Yeah.
It's 4 acres. 4 acres.
So we bought that 4-acre plot, and then we started the construction, and the temple was inaugurated 2 years ago. At the same time, Yasomatinandana was pursuing with the government about getting land in Baroda. Sorry. I remember coming to Baroda, staying in a hotel, going with Yasomatinandana to meet some government officials. And Yasomatinandana really had to struggle for years and years till he got the Baroda land, and they just started the construction. So Prabhupada sent him to Gujarat to take charge of spreading Krishna consciousness there. Prabhupada wanted him to construct temples and translate the books. Yasomatinandana, under his supervision, temples opened up all over Gujarat. Today we have centers in almost every corner of Gujarat. He had this mission of preaching. I remember in those days, in the early days of our preaching in Gujarat, we used to have big pandals. And we had big pandals in many cities. And there would be 5,000 to 10,000 people, at least 5,000 people. huge pandals in Bhuj, Ahmedabad, Surat. And it was in one of these programs at Rang Bhavan where we met somebody who said, I have a temple and I want to give that to you. So he came the next day to our temple. Yasomatinandana met him. I was also with him. And they gave us a temple, which is there in Surat right now, Radha Damodar temple. So first I believe it was Ahmedabad, then Surat, then Baroda. Baroda was also built under Yasomatinandan's oral supervision. The land was finally legalized in ISKCON's name and gradually went on spreading everywhere. So Yasomatinandana fulfilled Prabhupada's desire to have temples, to see that Krishna consciousness spreads, and also in getting Prabhupada's books translated. We first started with Gujarati BTG, then Yasomatinandana got the Bhagavatam and Gita translated, and the entire translation was done under his supervision in Gujarati. And Prabhupada was so pleased, they made him a trustee of the PBT. Jasomatinandana was a very scholarly devotee, and he was very well versed in the Shastra, and his lectures were very scholarly. He also worked hard in not only in opening temples, translating books, but also in book distribution. As some of the speakers have said, at one time in Gujarat, we had 3-4 buses going out on book distribution. And 3-4 buses had enough devotees. I think we also had a Mataji's party at that time and went to different parts of Gujarat doing book distribution. So Yasomatinandana was very dedicated to Prabhupada. I had the good fortune of working with him for 45 years, and we had a very good relationship. And Yasomatinandana's main motive was that Prabhupada should be pleased. Then I heard there was some reference to the land. There was a big businessman from Bombay, Bhogilal Patel, who was very impressed by Srila Prabhupada. And Bhogilal Patel had, I think, 100 or more than 100 acres of land on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. At that time, Ahmedabad was small. Now Ahmedabad has expanded a lot. So Bhogilal gave us the land. Later, I believe his son changed his mind, and there was a court. There was a legal fight, and Yasomatinandana was very firm in terms of his stand, and ultimately the issue was settled where ISKCON got 100 acres of land. This is probably the biggest farm that ISKCON has in India, which is right on the outskirts of the city. And under his supervision, the Goshala developed, and the Goshala developed, and they have over 100 cows over there. Yasomatinandana was dedicated to Prabhupada, and the main desire was always to please Prabhupada. A few years ago, he had some health problems, and his health problems went on for a few years. But still, Yasomatinandana didn't stop. Sorry, he didn't stop. He stopped serving in ISKCON. On the one hand, he had health issues, and which went on expanding. And on the other hand, he was still very active. On the other hand, he knew how to negotiate and how to save money for Krishna. As I said, he was one of the best financial managers the Gujarat temples, especially Surat and Ahmedabad, finances, he would manage himself. He was scared. He was a good missionary, enthusiastic preacher, dedicated to Prabhupada's instructions, dedicated to seeing the Krishna consciousness spread all over Gujarat and all over the world. So it's a great loss. His departing yesterday. He got admitted in the hospital 15 days ago with coronavirus, and we didn't know that it was so serious. And the doctors tried their best, which I had planned. So on the one hand, we're going to miss Yasomatinandana Association. It was very popular with the bureau members. It was very popular with the GVC body. He was a very popular devotee in his thought. And he was respected also. On the one hand, we're going to miss his physical association. But on the other hand, we know that we all live according to Krishna's plan. And maybe the Lord wants him to serve somewhere else. And our duty would be to make sure that all these temples are nicely maintained, make sure that the devotees are enthusiastic, and that the preaching keeps expanding. So I want to offer my respectful obeisances to Yasomatinandana Prabhu, and we hope that we can carry out, we can work together and maintain and expand what we have done. Yasomatinandana Prabhu ki jai. Jai Bo.
Thank you, Gopal Krishna Maharaj.
Well, you said 5 minutes, so.
Well, 5 minutes means 10 minutes in India.
Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjanashlakya Chakshurmidam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarane Vancha Kalpa Dhruvasya Kripa Sindhuve Vicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. As many great Vaishnavas have already glorified, I would like to thank Vasugosh Prabhu first, who has been updating about the health of Yashomatinandan Prabhu from the past many days. And he was so meticulous and apt that he was keeping our hopes alive that Yashomatinandan Prabhu is going to be back. It happened that yesterday in the morning when we heard that he's all right, he's going to come back. And we're very, eager to see him back at his Ahmedabad temple. But when the news came at about 5 o'clock with the photographs, it drowned me in an ocean of sorrow because my Yashomatinandan Prabhu has been always hero of my life. Because during the days of my film world in 1978, when I was coming to the Hare Krishna land, he used to often come to the temple and deliver the lectures. And I was so zapped by his meticulous way of presenting the Bhagavatam and other philosophical angles that I was drawn to him all the time. But I never dared to be near to him because at the time I was in a karmi cloth and I was belonging to the film world. But in due course of a time, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavas, I came more closer to Krishna, got initiated.
Very nice Zoom meeting going on, Jashomatinandan.
So it was, so nice. In 1982, when I went along with His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj to Rajkot for the first time. He was kind enough to, invite me to come assist him while he was going to Rajkot. And at the Rajkot airport, it was, first time I interacted with Yashomatinandan Prabhu, and I was in my own way trying to come down from the airplane, and Yashomatinandan Prabhu was waiting for, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj to, come. And maybe I just didn't offer my obeisances to Yashomatinandan Prabhu. And His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj just immediately chastised me. Oh, you didn't offer your obeisances to Prabhu, to Yashomatinandan Prabhu. He's one of the foremost leaders of ISKCON. And to my surprise, I just bowed down to him, and he said that, no, it's all right, it's all right. Because he had seen me many times in, Juhu, coming to his classes and everything. So that was during the Rajkot. So I attended those many programs over there. And then, as many people said that, we had a first, center in the Ahmedabad, on the Ashram Road. And I happened to go over there many times. And I was also impressed by his Sankirtan movement, because as many people said that he had almost about 4 or 5 buses over there. A lot of people, used to hear about these Sankirtan buses in Gujarat. In those days, we had some wonderful devotees also, those who have settled now in San Francisco, like Sukhdev Das, Brahmabhutta Das, and so many other devotees who were the Sankirtan leaders in those times. And some of them were also the ladies. So that was the time when, I used to associate more and more with Yashomatinandan Prabhu. But it fruitified so much that when the Ahmedabad temple was opening, and Yashomatinandan Prabhu said, oh, we are opening the temple there. What are you going to do, Surdas, there? I said, Yashomatinandan Prabhu, why don't you put some cultural festival there? And immediately he said, oh, no, we don't want to. We don't have the money for the cultural activities and everything. And I was so much moved by his humility that I spoke to, Vishnumurti Prabhu. Vishnumurti Prabhu, as you all know him. So he said, don't worry, I will give some money to him. And he gave 10 lakhs of rupees for me to put up the festival there. And Yashomatinandan Prabhu agreed at the time. And then, to his surprise, when I put the programs there for almost about 6 days festival in Karnavati Club, almost about 5,000 to 10,000 people came every evening. And then, before introducing the artist, Yashomatinandan Prabhu used to address to all the people over there who came for the temple opening. And when the culmination happened, and he thanked me very well, he said that, in the initial stage, I negated this cultural festival, and I wish to do this festival more often, and you have to come every time. Because when I left that place, a lot of people came back to the Ahmedabad temple, and they said that, you should have these festivals more often. And they remembered his lectures, his presentations, his programs, and I used to also, talk about it at the time. So that deepened my relationship. And we often met, and he appreciated what I was doing culturally in Bhakti Kala Kshetra all over the world at the time. And then the best part was when, by the mercy of the Lord and mercy of, Prabhupada, we got a land in Kharghar, and this whole land of 9 acres became a lot of discussion in the RGB then. And it was Yashomatinandan Prabhu who said that if Prabhupada would be there, he would say that who has got this land, he will give him to build the temple. And at the time, everybody was silent. Of course, it was the mercy of many Vaishnavas, but, Yashomatinandan Prabhu was very kind enough to, trust me for such a wonderful project. And he said that, please go ahead and do something wonderful. And to my surprise, many times he came to this temple. And last year he came here to Kharghar temple, Navi Mumbai. When he stayed there in this place, in the ashram and in the whole place, he was very much in tears. When he gave a Bhagavatam class in the morning and the Bhagavad Gita class in the evening, in the morning he was so much in tears that he said that I could never imagine that, you could do this such a wonderfully, because he was amazed to see the, whole project. And he appreciated me. He said that, go ahead and do something wonderful here. And you are doing something wonderful. So that put me, so much emotionally attached to him, because I was so much impressed by these two wonderful couples. Couple, Yashomatinandan Prabhu and Radhakund Mataji. I would never, forget these two people so much dedicated to Prabhupada. And like Radhakund Mataji, wherever she is, she distributes Prabhupada's books, come what may be, whether she is in Mayapur, whether she is in Vrindavan. In this morning, in my homage to Yashomatinandan Prabhu, I was glorifying this couple who have given so much in Gujarat with their association, with their dedication for each other, and showing people how even a grahastha couple together can serve Srila Prabhupada's movement and be attached to the core, the teachings and the preachings of Srila Prabhupada, and yet remain so austere. I must thank Yashomatinandan Prabhu for remaining so austere all the time in his life. Whenever I go to Ahmedabad, he would always eat cold Mahaprasadam offered to the deities. And then he would always be very conservative in utilizing the Lakshmi. And sometimes he would also chastise people that misusing even a penny. And that stuck to my heart, that such a wonderful person who has come all the way from America, leaving all his, personal glory and personal life's, glory, and came to the surrender to Prabhupada and showing it with example. Then, of course, also we went to Rajkot, where we did a Bhumi Pujan together, because he had seen how, we had done a program in Ahmedabad and everything. He called me personally. He said that, Surdas, you have to come to Rajkot. And I was there in the Bhumi Pujan time. Of course, I was not at the time of the opening temple. So, but I was at the time of a Bhumi Pujan there, and they were all ministers, and so many people came and they praised Yashomatinandan Prabhu, and it's a very big project. And then, of course, Dwarka also is there. And then lately, which Yashomatinandan Prabhu and Gopal Krishna Maharaj opened at, and Bhuj, where it's almost about 15 acres of land. And there was also another land coming to us that was at Gandhidham, that is near Adani's port, but somehow that didn't work out, and it was Maharaj. So that was almost about 15 acres of land in the port land where Adani has got ports and everything. So my relationship with him is so intense and so lovable that he always encouraged me to do whatever I'm doing, because I was so much impressed by his book distribution, temples, association, pleasing personality, and yet hardcore philosophical and cutthroat philosophy, which he, amidst all the Gujaratis and everything, he was so attached to Prabhupada, because most of the Gujaratis are so lovable anyway, sweeter, but he was attached to the philosophy, and that's what he has impregnated in the people who are leaders in Gujarat. And that's what people are very appreciative of. And I must add here, I must thank Radhakund Mataji, who has nurtured the kids very nicely in the absence of Yashomatinandan Prabhu, and still serving strongly Prabhupada's mission by distributing books. And that pleases most. As a wife of Yashomatinandan Prabhu, she has shown a great, excellent sacrifice for the children and for the movement. I bow down my head to great stalwarts. I will miss him. I loved him to be here at the opening of the temple, but unfortunately, I will miss him the most, because he inspired me the most all the time, and he has put me on this wonderful project. I bow down my head again and again to Yashomatinandan Prabhu, and he will be always in my heart, and his inspirations will be always there for me. And I thank Yashomatinandan Prabhu again. In between, before bringing any senior devotee, I have got so many things to say, but we have 5 minutes only. I would like to cut down my, my offering and my, prayers for Yashomatinandan Prabhu. Yashomatinandan Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Surdas Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm the only one that's unmuted now. Everyone is muted.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu ki jai. His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu was very dear to everyone. He has friendship with every devotee, and of course everybody felt or feels that he's very close to me. My association with Jashomatinandan Prabhu goes way back 40 years, 4 months. It was 1980, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj sent me to Ahmedabad for Janmashtami. The temple was in Ashram Road on bank of Sabarmati, a small flat with 3 rooms and a hall, kitchen. So that's where I met Jashomatinandan Prabhu first time. He gave a lecture that time on Janma Karma Chami Divyam Evam Veti Tattvataha. I moved by hearing his wonderful lecture. And today, Vasu Ghosh Prabhu sent a letter which he has sent to Srila Prabhupada early 70s when he joined, when he took just first initiation or something. And so sastrically quoting so many scriptural evidence, he had written that letter. So I felt that, he has really a great taste in reading Srila Prabhupada books. And of course, after 80, we have many time, association, meeting, and of course, we are part of management. So we do meet time and again. Some of his transcendental quality I would like to share, which of course occurred with me. One of the things he talked about Srila Prabhupada books. He said, Prabhupada books are not ordinary books. It is not written by Prabhupada. It is Prabhupada lecture, pravachan. So if you read Prabhupada books, that means you are hearing directly Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada had dictated everything. So this is his lecture. It's not his writing. So this is one thing which I remember, and I tell devotees also, and that really fully convinced me to read Srila Prabhupada books. Of course, earlier we were not allowed to read any other books, just only read Prabhupada books. But yes, his, talk really convinced me. And he was always, thinking how we can distribute more and more Srila Prabhupada books. As Surdas Prabhu was saying, that he started buses in 80, and we also had buses in Bombay. So there was always competition between Bombay and Gujarat. And whoever loses, they had to give feast and party. I remember once we lost to Gujarat. So we had given party. We had a farm in Karjat, and we gave party in Karjat. Devotee from Brahmbhuta, Sukhdev, they all came from Gujarat, all the big leader on bus. And 1 year they lost. So we had party in Surat. And such a close and loving relationship was there between Jashomatinandan Prabhu and Juhu temple. Our Sankirtan leader Bhima Prabhu was there that time. And Jasomatinandana Prabhu and Bhima Prabhu, they're very close buddy, very close friend. Now, Bhima Prabhu was also president of Juhu, and I was the vice president of Juhu. So Jasomatinandana Prabhu used to come Juhu, and one of his transcendental thing, as Surdas Prabhu said, he was very tight with the money, but he used to come here and give some money to some of the new bhakta to come to Ahmedabad or Surat or Baroda. So after Jashomatinandan Prabhu leaves, then, I used to get information that 2 or 3 boys has gone after a few days. And then we came to know that they are going to Gujarat. So of course, we challenged him, and especially I spoke to him, and I am also a little passionate. And so he got upset with me and said, "You Babuchak, you only think of Jew, So that's whenever he got angry with me, he just calls me Babuchak. So for a long time, I did not know what is the meaning of Babuchak. So once I asked my wife, she happened to be his disciple, because she joined in Ahmedabad. She from Calcutta, she came to Juhu, and Mother Aditya said, "Oh, we can't keep any lady here." So night time she had to go to Ahmedabad, and Mother Radha Kund Jashomatinandan Prabhu, they really took care of my wife like their daughter. So my wife and Visakha, they were the team, and they were collecting a lot of donation for just Ahmedabad temple. Jashomatinandan Prabhu really loved them, going out and distributing books and collecting, making life member all over Gujarat. So once I asked to her, what is the meaning of Babuchak? So she started laughing, and she said, it must have been told by Bapa. I didn't know what Bapa also means. So she told me Bapa. So I said, what do you mean Bapa? She said, Jasomatinandana Prabhu. I said, yes. So she said, Babuchak means full. So from that day, I know that, whenever he gets angry, that much he tells that he is Babuchak. And after some time, I think, I don't know whether Bhima Prabhu spoke to him or not, but I did mention to Bhima Prabhu this is happening. They must have spoken. So next time, he was not doing himself. There was one devotee, Jai Jagdish. So he started using Jai Jagdish for same thing, because in Gujarat there are not many devotees. And in Juhu, devotees were floating like anything, especially in rainy season. There are many young boys, they used to come to Bombay to become film, hero or something like that. And rainy season, they had no place to stay, so they had to join Hare Krishna temple. So we had so many devotees anyway, so they were going to go, and he was taking. So there was transcendental, Leela, but altogether he wanted to see those devotees engage. Other good quality of His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu, he really have unflinching faith in Srila Prabhupada book and his words. He read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, day in, day out. His life was the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Whenever he gave class, he would talk the pastime of Lord Chaitanya. And if you hear his classes, close your eyes and hear his classes, you'll feel that he is there and he is describing. He is watching and describing. So that kind of feeling one gets when he start talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his different pastime, very detailed. He was also very kind. Whenever there is a conflict, there is always two kind of lawyer. One takes side of plaintiff side, other defendant side. So he always became the lawyer of defendant side, the weak side, or one who was accused. And he used to fight very nicely. Besides that, for ISKCON, he was always, great supporter to see that ISKCON remains united and we don't fall off. I remember that, how even that Jonal Acharya's time, His Holiness Giriraj Swami and Jashomatinandan Prabhu, they used to be hours and hours locked in the room. And I didn't know what they are doing, what they used to talk. They wrote letter to GBC. Later on, when the Gopi Bhav Club came, that time also, Jashomatinandan Prabhu, of course, we all had meeting in room number 508. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there. Jashomatinandan Prabhu, I think Brajari Prabhu was there, Bhima Prabhu. Many of us were there. And he compiled a beautiful letter, many pages later. And that letter brought a big wonder that GBC had to change their, and they took action on those devotees who were going to Narayana Maharaj for Gopi Bhav. I know time is short, only 2 more minutes I will just say. He was very affectionate, kind, always treated me like younger brother. And because Surangi, my wife, she had done a lot of service. So whenever he came, he used to come to our house to take prasadam, we invited. And when I became General Secretary, then Kanpur in 2009, when he started the temple, that time he came for opening of a small temple. And that time he told, Prabhupada wanted in his lifetime 9 temples to be built. Bombay, Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, Ahmedabad, Kanpur, Hyderabad, Kurukshetra, and Madras. So he said 9 or 10, he said Prabhupada wanted in his lifetime. So he was very happy with Kanpur that, you have started this project. This is very nice, and he blessed. And he said, if you need any support and help, I said, Bapa, if you can give some money, I need some money. He said, beside money, you can ask anything. So that was, I said, okay. Then he said, he talked about Kanpur. He said, Prabhupada said, Kanpur is Manchester of India. And you can read Prabhupada later. Prabhupada very much wanted to have a temple in Kanpur. So him and His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj encouraged, and that's where we are in Kanpur. And then even for Jagannath Puri also, he encouraged. I think initially he was also part of our committee in Jagannath Puri. But anyway, there are many memories are there which is just not coming right now. I'm still on second state and shocked of his demise, untimely, I will say, because being selfish. Otherwise, Prabhupada and Krishna must have something. When I spoke to him yesterday, his son Nandu, I spoke to him, he was there. So, I have been talking to his servant, the devotee who is serving him every day almost, and Vasugos Prabhu also sending this message. So I spoke to Nandu and I said, can I see Bapa? So we had WhatsApp video. So he took in front of Bapa that his phone, and Bapa was sleeping, he had closed eyes, and I just said, Hare Krishna Bapa, this is Devakinandan. Then he widely opened his eyes and he acknowledged, he tried to say something. And I took the photograph and I sent to Vasugas Prabhu and he sent to others. Anyway, so then I wrote to Bureau Conference and other places that, I just spoke to him and he is still conscious, and let us pray intensely. Prayer had a great effect. Anything can happen. So His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu has so many wonderful transcendental quality. He loved by not only devotee, but even karmis and politicians and everyone in Gujarat. He is the hero, our hero of Gujarat. He is our stalwart in Gujarat. So I pray to Srila Prabhupada, Radharas Bihari, that Jashomatinandan Prabhu, he always eternally assists Srila Prabhupada and keeps guiding us to serve Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. I hope I have not gone over 5 minutes. I tried to.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me speak. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees and all the Prabhupada Anugas all over the world. Prabhuji was a Prabhupada Anuga from the very beginning. Every night he used to massage Prabhupada's lotus feet in Bombay. Srila Prabhupada said that he was the best at massaging he would massage for like 3 hours, 4 hours, and because he was not very strong, he would get very tired. But Srila Prabhupada would go on and on talking, teaching him how to preach in the college, teaching him how to defeat the scientists, teaching him so many things. One night after he was done massaging, he was so tired that he went out the door and fell asleep right on the floor by the door. But because he snores, Srila Prabhupada didn't go to sleep. He used to just get up and start translating. So one time, Prabhuji was very tired and he just fell asleep right outside Prabhupada's door. And Prabhupada was trying to translate. It was quite amazing that he didn't go to sleep. And Prabhuji started snoring. And Prabhupada came out of the room and he said that Prabhupada kicked him. He said, "Why are you snoring?" And Prabhuji said, "I don't know." Prabhupada had so much desire for him to go to Gujarat. So every night he would say, "When are you going to Gujarat to preach? When?" Every night he would go and tell him. So finally we decided, okay, we're going to go. And Giriraj Maharaj gave us 250 rupees to go to Gujarat. At that time there was no money. And we got on a train with no ticket. We were in the general coach with my daughter Sundari. And we got there and we had an address of a life member there. And we stayed in his factory go down. And I would like to thank Surdas Prabhu for all his kind words, because Prabhuji was very miserly. He never wanted to waste Srila Prabhupada's Lakshmi, because Prabhupada also was very miserly. He never ever wasted one paisa. He used to get so upset if money was wasted. He used to say, "You foreigners, you're always wasting money. Disposable this, disposable razor, disposable pen." So we would go on bicycle. 1 rupee, we would rent bicycles. 1 rupee a day, and we would go out to make life members. And at that time, nobody knew what was Hare Krishna. We had no idea. People were very unaware of what is ISKCON. But then Srila Prabhupada came and we had a huge program. Prabhupada came and thousands of people came for his. So many people came that he couldn't speak. There was too much noise. He would just have kirtan mostly, and then we would distribute prasad. And Prabhuji would translate the lecture. And Prabhupada said, "Okay, you have to get a good place to stay." So Prabhupada had this life member put an ad in the newspaper. And Srila Prabhupada personally came with us to look at different flats that were for rent. And we went to one old rundown house. And I remember walking up the stairs behind Srila Prabhupada and touching his feet on each step. And this old rickety house had no electricity, no water. It was, and Prabhupada said, "This is the place. This is perfect. This place is just like Vrindavan. You rent this place." And I was thinking, "Oh, Krishna, my husband is very austere and Srila Prabhupada is very austere. How can we live in this place?" And my husband was saying, "Okay, we'll fix it up. We'll get water, we'll get electricity, we'll get it fixed up." But Srila Prabhupada had big plans. And we had also big plans for, trying to please Srila Prabhupada, but it was very difficult in those days. But Srila Prabhupada helped. We finally got a place And we installed Sri Sri Gonitai, and Prabhupada saw the pictures of the installation, and he was very pleased. He was pleased at the smallest things we did. And I can see that as we saw Prabhuji when he left, he was smiling. He was smiling, and I can see that Srila Prabhupada does not see anything bad. He only sees the good that the devotees are doing. He doesn't count anything bad. Only he's seeing the good. What Prabhuji did in good mantra works. And Srila Prabhupada had faith that even though we were demons, we were cow eaters, we were the lowest of the sabse neech. But Prabhupada had faith in the holy name, that the holy name will make all these demons into some kind of devotees. Anyway, I would like to just appreciate Prabhuji's service and beg all the devotees for all the forgiveness, for forgiving me for all my offenses. Beg Prabhuji to forgive all my offenses. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna. Yes, His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu came to Pune probably twice, and I also got to meet him in Juhu temple also. And I was fortunate to meet him. He told me the entire schedule of Srila Prabhupada from the morning to night, how Prabhupada would spend his day and how he would get up in the morning, and also his association with Srila Prabhupada. And one thing he told me, which very sharply I remember, he said when he was in the West, one time he gave it, and Prabhupada took that donation and told him, I want to give it back to you so that you can go to India, to Gujarat and start a center. And Yashomatinandan Prabhu told Prabhupada that I'm not yet ready. I'll be going after some years back to India, and then I will, at that time I'm planning to expand preaching in India. And after a while, I don't know after how many years, but when he was about to return to India, Prabhupada called a devotee and told, take that amount which he donated us and give it to him. Because I had promised him that I'll give this initial amount which he can use for preaching and starting a center in India. So Yashomatinandan Prabhu was appreciating Prabhupada's integrity in keeping his word, what he promised, quite some time ago, although he was very busy with so many other responsibilities and duties. And he also said he simply fell in love with Prabhupada for everything, the way Prabhupada lived and the way Prabhupada preached. And later on, I was fortunate to visit the Ahmedabad temple a few times. I would generally think that I should offer him obeisances from a distance and push off because he's a very senior personality and he'll be very busy. But he was so kind that he would always invite me to his room and make me sit and spend an hour, half an hour, 1 hour. And then I invited him to Pune for speaking on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because once when I was in Chowpatty temple, I heard him speak for a couple of hours on Chaitanya Leela completely with his heart and soul. That was my first meeting with him. And Govind Prabhu had told me that, about his speciality of Jashomatinandan Prabhu in relating the Chaitanya Leela characters very effectively, very powerfully. So I feel very blessed to have his personal association in my life. And several times, whenever I went to Ahmedabad, he would always talk about youth preaching and ask me how things are. And I found that in our GPC meetings and in our ICC, IAC meetings and all, His Holiness Gopalakrishna Goswami Maharaj, His Holiness Jayabhadra Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Lokanath Maharaj, all of them would turn to him to hear from him because he always had something very unique to say, something very vital and very important. He was very thoughtful and he could see from various perspectives. And I feel that it's a very great irreparable loss for ISKCON society to miss such a very vital leader, such a great general who walked amongst us and who was setting such a powerful Krishna conscious example. When I heard about his passing away, it was a shock for me, because in my personal association with him, I really deeply relished his explanations on, and some of the questions I had, I would ask him about Chaitanya Leela, questions he answered so beautifully. I would very much miss him in my life. And also hearing all of you speak his glories is a great good reminisce my association with him. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radhe Shyam Prabhu. So I wanted to ask Revati Raman Prabhu. He's a GBC man and president of ISKCON Tirupati. I think I've unmuted you. Yeah. Okay, Revati Raman, you have the floor.
Hare Krishna.
Turn on your video, Prabhu, so we can see.
My pranams and dandavats to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. My video, I can't switch on, because if I switch on the video, it may cut, because the signal is pretty poor here. Okay, I'll just speak.
Okay.
It's a big shock, and I'm very much saddened, myself and all the devotees of Tirupati and in Andhra. All are feeling very, very sad to miss such a wonderful Vaishnava. Yashomatinandana Prabhu is very, very special devotee, very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. He's a person carrying Srila Prabhupada in his heart all the time. Because today we have a wonderful temple in Tirupati, ISKCON temple, Radha Govinda Ashtasakis. And for this temple we constructed, one of the main person, mercy given by, is Yasho Prabhu, Jashomatinandan Prabhu. This temple I could construct with all the devotees by his mercy. When there was a challenge, a lot of challenges to construct that temple had real big problems. Yasho Prabhu stood there. He supported me, fully supported me. Come on, do it, I'm there. That way he supported me. And always I am conscious of Yasho Prabhu. He's like my father, And just imagine what a humble person he is. Just last 3-4 weeks, every Sunday, 11 o'clock, I give a class to a group of devotees known as Shravanam and Kirtanam. Every Sunday, especially in this lockdown time, he came to my class 3-4 times. And I was shocked. Yashomatinandana Prabhu is there, his name is there. He's in my class. What is his level and what is my level? What is his consciousness and what is my consciousness? And Prabhu is a Shastric person. He knows the Shastras so nicely, so wonderfully he knows the Shastras. He can quote hundreds and hundreds of slokas beautifully. So he was sitting in my class, he was in my class. And I'm pretty there. Believe it or not, I used to be nervous. Oh, Prabhuji is there. I was very conscious of my class. I should speak very carefully. That shows Prabhu, though, is a very tough person. No tamasha with him. At the same time, very humble also. Very sweet also. One time I had the real financial construction time and asked Prabhu, and he immediately gave me a good amount of money, take it. And you get the money back, you pay me back. So like this, always you're stretching out, you're helping, supporting. And he came and stayed with us in Tirupati for 1 week. Just came and stayed with us, nothing else. Not for darshan of Balaji and nothing. Simply stayed with us and gave classes every day morning. Every day morning, amazing classes. Every day he'll sing one Vaishnava bhajan, then a class. Next day another Vaishnava bhajan, then a class. The whole temple was fired up after hearing from him. Such an amazing devotee he is. Today I'm deeply hurt. Prabhuji is not there. No doubt he has gone to Prabhupada to continue his service for Srila Prabhupada and for Radha and Govinda. He's such an amazing devotee, So what can I say? There's no words to glorify him. There is a grihastha so special. To my wife, Bhaktika Devi, and my devotees are here with me, Murli Govinda, Lila Parayan. They're all very, very hurt. The whole temple is saddened because we have lost such a nice, dear devotee and our friend, father-like figure he is. Hare Krishna Prabhu, this much I can say. Thank you very much for this opportunity to glorify our Vaishnava. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Revati Raman Prabhu. So Jayapataka Maharaj is ready. And then after Jayapataka Maharaj, Dayaram Prabhu is also coming. and then Kishori, Jasomatinandan Prabhu's daughter in the UK. Jai Pataka Maharaj, you have the floor.
Krishna Vistaya Bhataya, Bhakti Bhakti Swami, Economic State Shakti Devi, Govardhani, Vajayane, Shisa Sundari, Shakti Desare, Akakaroti Vatana, Magalakaya, Tegarim, Shakti Vata Mahalmande, Tegarim, Tharam, Amahanam, Itaitani Shah, Anchakota Blue, Saki Vasundari, I saw it's a very distressful thing. To lose the association of such a dear devotee to Srila Prabhupada.
So it's a very stressful thing when we have to lose such a close associate of Srila Prabhupada.
He was sent to Gujarat.
He was sent to Gujarat.
And he basically established temples in Ahmedabad and Surat.
He basically established temples in Ahmedabad, Surat.
I know lots of horses in the border. I don't know what particularly he did. Generally, though, he was responsible for the.
I know Bashugosh Prabhu was in Baroda, but generally, Yasomatinandan Prabhu, he was responsible for the whole of Gujarat.
And sometimes I would visit Gujarat.
Sometimes I would visit Gujarat.
And he'd be very kind to me.
He was always very kind to me.
We were discussing some of his children, how they be Krishna conscious.
Some of the children, how they can be Krishna conscious.
Like that, we talked about various things.
Like that, we talked about various things.
He was a BBT trustee.
He was BBT trustee.
Bureau member. He was
a
zone secretary.
He was zonal secretary.
So many things.
So many things.
So, when I heard he was sick.
When I heard he was sick.
With COVID. I immediately called him up.
I immediately called him up.
And I talked to him.
I
said, you have doctors who have some experience and they can.
I said that we have doctors who have good experience in handling COVID.
And at that time, he was saying, I'm feeling better.
But he was saying that I'm feeling better.
So, actually, we used the Russian, Chinese.
Actually, we used the Russian, Chinese,
various Ayurvedic cures.
Various Ayurvedic cures.
And one cure is there in Ahmedabad.
And there is also one Ayurvedic cure in Ahmedabad.
Which, so we tried that on some devotees that seemed to help them.
We tried that on some devotees and it seems to be helping.
Some billionaire from Florida, he said, if I would have known that.
A billionaire from Florida.
He said that if he had known about Bhakti Charu Swami.
He said that if he had known about Bhakti Charu Swami,
he would give this medicine.
He would have given this medicine.
So we got that medicine from Ahmedabad.
So we got that medicine from Ahmedabad.
We were trying to get him to take that medicine.
And we also tried Yasomatinandan Prabhu to take that medicine.
This disease is very tricky.
But this disease is very tricky.
You have a honeymoon period.
It has a honeymoon period.
And they feel great.
Sometimes they feel great.
And then afterwards, boom.
Then after that, boom.
So this seems to be the thing that happened.
So this seems to be the thing that he had.
And I was praying to Krishna
So anyway, I was praying to Krishna, Nrsingadev,
and if they please let him stay.
if they so please, then let him stay.
Because we need his association.
Because we need his association.
I don't have much personal exchanges as those in Western India.
I don't have much personal exchanges compared to those who are in West India.
But what I have is definitely he was very much Prabhupada man.
But definitely he's very much Prabhupada's man.
And he was always trying to do the most Krishna conscious thing.
But he always tried to do everything in the most Krishna conscious way.
And then he had very nice Krishna conscious children.
He has very nice Krishna conscious children.
Family members.
And family members.
So, and a beautiful temple in Ahmedabad, Surat.
And he has built a beautiful temple in Ahmedabad, Surat.
And we're trying to develop the congregational preaching.
While we are trying to develop this congregational preaching,
he was always encouraging us. He was always encouraging us.
He was always encouraging us.
And very happy when I called him up.
He was very happy when I called him up.
Of course, I wish I could have done more.
I wish I could have done more.
But certainly, he'll live forever with Prabhupada.
He will live forever with Srila Prabhupada.
I feel that people like this who are pioneers in ISKCON.
I feel that people like this who are pioneers in ISKCON,
they should have a place in Mayapur Memorial Park.
They should have a place in Mayapur's Memorial Park.
I said to do the Visarjan and the Ganges, you only need 100 grams.
In order to do the Visarjan in Ganges, we need like 100 grams of ashes.
So the rest of the ashes could be kept by devotees to circumambulate.
So the rest of the ashes can be kept for the devotees to circumambulate.
Somehow the Bureau should make some request to the GBC.
Somehow the Bureau should make the request to the GBC.
Because I'm not fighting this alone.
Because I'm fighting this alone.
But I think that such persons.
But I think for such person
like
Jashomatinandan Prabhu,
pioneer starting ISKCON in Gujarat,
who is the pioneer and he started ISKCON in Gujarat,
he deserves a special remembrance.
He deserves a special remembrance.
Anyway, I still have after my stroke, I went one time to Gujarat.
After my stroke, I went to Gujarat one time straight.
And he was very kind. He came. We talked for many days actually.
He was very kind. He always came to me, and we even talked for many days.
So for me, I feel these are very great generals who did the trailblazing work in ISKCON.
For me, he's like one of the many generals who did great works for ISKCON.
Trailblazing. The word trailblazing.
Trailblazing.
Pioneer work.
Pioneer work.
So, I offer my homage.
I offer my homage.
And others have much more, maybe more personal.
And others may have more personal
experiences.
But many of my disciples are working under Yashomatinandan, and
many of my disciples, they are working under Jasomatinandana Prabhu in Gujarat, and they are very happy.
and he's always they're very Krishna conscious.
He was always encouraging them to be in Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Jayapataka Maharaj. I wanted to ask Dayaram Prabhu to speak next, if he unmutes himself.
Hare Krishna.
Aja, Pancharatna would be next, and then Kishori.
You want
Yeah,
Pancharatna?
Dayaram Prabhu, go ahead. Can you
Hare
turn
Krishna.
on your video so we can see you? Oh,
I have a very poor connection. I'm in Mayapur.
oh, okay.
Okay, so that's why I'm not putting on a video.
All right. Go ahead.
Jashomatinandan Prabhu ki jai. Vanchakalpataru Vaishya Kripa Sindhubhyo Jashomatinandan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. My first meeting with Jashomatinandan Prabhu was in Juhu temple, and he was very affectionate to me. Maybe because we came from IIT background, that some Indian boys, educated boys are joining. But he was in Gujarat and I was in Mayapur. In 1987, there was a whole big revolution by 50-man committee against the GBC and zonal acharya system. And he was the biggest proponent of opposition to zonal acharya system. And we were at that time new devotees, very much supporting and the gurus and acharyas of ISKCON. So we were on the opposite camp in Mayapur. But still, he never kept any grudge or any ill feeling, in spite of my seeing me not to be supporting his views in 1987. Our relationship grew. Again, in 1999, when GBC decided to expel Madhu Pandit and Adhidharan Prabhu, he was completely against. He had written a letter to GBC not to take such action. And again, he was angry, upset with me that I supported GBC and not kept neutral or should not have fought. But still, again, in spite of these differences, we never had any personal enmity, always were friendly and very appreciative. He was very, I found in him the quality of commitment to Srila Prabhupada and willing to speak the truth and call spade a spade. Whether if you like it or you don't like it, it didn't matter. And he always encouraged me also to stand up for the conviction, stand up for Prabhupada, even if it means that many leaders will not agree with you. Many times in the meetings, we found him to be completely isolated, but still he would stand up his ground and argue his case. And throughout that, his character, his commitment to Srila Prabhupada was extremely visible, that he would not compromise anywhere where Srila Prabhupada's position or the instruction or his standard is compromised. And with that commitment, he has throughout conducted himself, and Prabhupada blessed him with big success. Although he didn't become a guru, he was GBC for some time and then he was removed. But he still expanded and established a huge preaching setup in Gujarat and encouraged many devotees. Towards the last part, last say 6-7 years, when he was sick, we many times prayed to Lord Narasimhadev in Mayapur. And I requested him that we promise Narasimhadev that when you get better, you come and offer puja. And he would come and offer puja whenever he got better. And our relationship became very deep. And whenever I took a stand, and he was very happy of the stand I took, which he felt that I was doing for Prabhupada. He even once told me he was sick. He said, Yasho, Prabhu, you're telling me to fight. But you yourself is sick. Without your support, how will I fight? And he would say, don't worry, even if I am on ventilator, I'll come to the bureau meeting and vote for you. You go ahead. My commitment is there. So I found him to be always very, very supportive, very committed to the cause and not willing to compromise. This is one thing I saw. At the same time, as many devotees said, that he had his soft side. If anybody was in trouble, if any devotee, and he had not much people supporting him, without fail, Yashomatinandan Prabhu will take his cause and try to help that devotee out. no matter how much odds are against him. That also is sin in him. He had that softness of heart. One way he was very hard, very difficult. At the same time, he had his softness also. Also, many times we don't agree with him and he makes some point which he doesn't like. But if it is correct, then he will accept it. I had many, I will not explain more, but I had many experiences of that some things he said I opposed and we had a fight, but then later on he would come and accept that, yes. Similarly, I also went and apologized that I should have listened to you and not take up this fight. We could have probably solved ISKCON's Ritvik problem within ISKCON, not gone to the court had I listened to your advice. So all in all, it's a big loss. We lost a very matured, committed devotee who had only Prabhupada's interest in his heart. He had no other interest. He was always very exemplary in his commitment to maintain Srila Prabhupada's standard. He always wanted to stand up for what he thought was in interest of Prabhupada and ISKCON, and not just accept or not just let somebody roll over because they are senior or they're more powerful. Such an exemplary personality we had. Unfortunately, Krishna has taken him with him. I'm sure Srila Prabhupada and Krishna are happy that they got their dear servant with them. But for us, although we know that it is the departure of a Vaishnava, is also time of jubilation, because Vaishnava leaves the world to go with Krishna and with Srila Prabhupada. So we should be happy in one sense, but we can't come over this feeling of gap and emptiness which departure of such stalwart devotees leave in our heart, in our consciousness. I must say also that great appreciation for Radhakund Mataji. Yashomatinandan Prabhu was not a very easy person to live with. He had some time, he would get very angry and he would be very miserly, as she said also in her offering. But she remained with him, served him, and always remained loyal to him. It's not easy being born in America and staying in Gujarat, staying with him in that very poverty-stricken situation to build up ISKCON. So we should not forget her contribution also. Although she was like, it's like a shadow. She was in the shadow, but without her support and her cooperation, Yashomatinandan Prabhu would not have achieved what he achieved. Once he told me that Srila Prabhupada had so much faith in Radhakund Mataji that he made her a signatory along with him on ISKCON account, although she was his wife. So my pranams to both of them for their wonderful service to Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. And I pray for their blessings that we get a similar commitment to serve Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dairam Prabhu. Thank you. Pancharatna Prabhu, senior godbrother, very senior godbrother, is there in Mayapur. I'm calling on him to speak. I think he's unmuted. Pancharatna Prabhu, you have the floor. Let me just check. I'm pretty sure you're unmuted. But both are muted. There are two Pancharatnas here.
All right, now,
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna. Oh, what to say? When I first came to India for service in 1976, I was here in the Mayapur side, so didn't really have any interaction with Yashomatinandan Prabhu until I began to be involved with the ISKCON, the Centennial and the ICC and so on. And from that point, I was able to observe very directly all the qualities that Dayaram Prabhu has been describing. Just to follow up on what he was saying about differences of opinion, but still friends. This was Srila Prabhupada's dream for us, that we could maintain unity in diversity. That even though we might differ on how we see Srila Prabhupada in different ways, that still we kept together. We didn't become like those devotees he describes that are pulling the legs in different ways. So by friendship, and I observed this throughout the time that I had the fortune of being with, or anytime I was with Yashomatinandan. Most recently, when I visited Ahmedabad last December for the communications meeting, and which was so graciously hosted by ISKCON Ahmedabad Temple. And I was very pleased to see the care which has also been brought out here from Yashomatinandan Prabhu, his attitude of caring for the devotees. One devotee that stood out for me that he championed when I was chairing the ICC meetings, he was the champion for Srila Prabhupada's son, Vrindavan Day. And I noted how he used to bring up this and make sure that everyone joined him in supporting Vrindavan Day, although there were other people who said, well, he should take care of himself or whatever. But still, he had this such a strong feeling of responsibility, both to Srila Prabhupada and to the devotees, to his family. So, and then in other instances where we work together, trying to sort out different issues facing ISKCON in India, I always marvel. I noted his sharp intelligence, his very sharp intelligence. Even though we may not agree on things, but still I could not deny that he had a very sharp understanding on so many different issues. So that commitment and that dedication to spreading Krishna consciousness, I've been enjoying listening to Srila Prabhupada's disciples speak their memories. And just recently, we were listening to Yashomatinandan Prabhu describing his early days and his services, and how he was able to serve Srila Prabhupada in a variety of ways, both beginning in India and in the U.S. and then in India with the Krishna Balaram Mandir opening and so on. And throughout this, we could see how he was so determined, dedicated, always ready to serve and always ready to keep going despite everything. Look at to see him recently after his illness, his stroke, to see him coming into the IIIC meetings or the ICC meetings, sitting there with a wonderful smile. That was another thing that I was enjoying, that even though he obviously had suffered some serious limitations to his abilities, he retained his wonderful sense of joy in Krishna consciousness, his happiness to be simply a servant of Srila Prabhupada. So I hope and pray to keep those memories, keep those feelings, and as I said before, to follow in his footsteps, to be always a surrendered servant of our divine master, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and to maintain our unity as his disciples, regardless of our diversity of opinions, and to always maintain that sense of friendship that we have to have with all the devotees, as we are all part of one family. So I am so happy to see all the devotees here, and I look forward to, I'm sorry to have missed the earlier parts. I had another meeting to attend, but I look forward to the rest. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Pancharatna Prabhu. There's a couple of ladies that I want to call on, which is Surangi Mataji and Varaha Rupa. But before I call on them, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, who regularly lectured at ISKCON Ahmedabad, and he's an excellent speaker, as we all know. I've asked him to speak next. Sarvabhauma Prabhu, and then Surangi Mataji, and then Varaha Rupa Mataji. Yeah, go ahead, Sarvabhauma Prabhu.
Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Prabhu, if you can
Yashomatinandan
turn
Prabhu.
on your video. Turn on your video so we can see you, if possible.
Light bale dekha. Hare Krishna. Light bale. Light. His Grace Yashomatinandan Prabhu. Well, since yesterday, as we received the Vasugo's message, it was heartbreaking. We had a very close association with him for last 20 years, always encouraging and helping the devotees there. He was a very extraordinary, intelligent. He can understand the person who is sitting there, what is in his mind, what he wants to do, and so committed and determined that Prabhupada's teaching should be carried out as it is, and he wanted to expand in the last 2-3 years. Far in the Gujarat, he wanted to start, and he said this temple should come. I would like to see this temple to come in a Bhuj, in a Gujarat, different parts. So every year he has a festival, and for last at least over 10 years we are visiting Ramnami festival there. He was very, very sweet person actually. It's very sweet person always. Though as we are hearing many devotees, though there may be differences, but he was always keeping the whole family together. The more spirit of the ISKCON family, Prabhupada as a founder Acharya, and how the things can be kept together, this was his extraordinary quality. And of course, we are hearing he's the pioneer of preaching in Gujarat. Prabhupada personally, he invited Prabhupada there. He served there. Were old couple photos today we saw. Well, anyway, we are missing him like anything for last 2 days. I mean, even couple, say 2-3 weeks before we talked, he said, now you come here, you already had a corona, what is the problem? You come here. So anyway, I say, Vasugos Prabhu, you were so close to him all the time. He was a moon in Prabhupada's this movement. He's one of the few Indians who left India for higher education and came back with Krishna consciousness to help Srila Prabhupada to establish all the Gujarati books and BBT. First time only I got Gujarati BBT from him for Indore at that time, in early days when I was in Vrindavan managing off. So Yashomatinandan was very special. He's one of the Prabhupada's men, and we are missing him. Shri Jasomati Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Sarvabhauma Prabhu. I think we can run over the time. We don't have enough time, and I haven't spoken, but Surangi Mataji was almost 40 years ago a resident of ISKCON Ahmedabad. It seems like yesterday. And she still looks the same after 38 years. Doesn't look a day older. So you have the floor, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. In 1981, I joined from Ahmedabad, ISKCON. Actually, I wanted to join from Calcutta, but Tadina Prabhu said I cannot join from there. Then I went to Ahmedabad, and Yasomatinandana Prabhu and Radhakund Mataji took so much care of me. They were very lovingly. Yasomatinandana Prabhu started sending me for lab member. Next day I joined, and I met so many thousands of members there. And he was always like pushing me to. He's saying, "You're Gujarati, you can make lots of members, and you can do so much preaching and this." And so I was always like under his guidance. Once I left, I wanted to know because he was pushing me for marriage there. So I left Ahmedabad. I came to Mumbai. Then he came. He told me, "No, you have to come to Ahmedabad. You have to, you cannot leave Ahmedabad. Then you stay there." So that's why I stayed. And he was always he was strict, very strict, but same time he was very caring also. Once my uncle and auntie came there, after a few months I joined, and they wanted to take me to Dakor, and he said, no, you cannot go. Otherwise they'll take you back. I'll take you to Dakor. Anything I want, I will do it. Don't go. So like always protecting very protective, like that. So I learned so many things from him. Then I just came to Mumbai, and still when he was coming, he was always like my Shiksha Guru. So I was always paying obeisances to him, and he was always nice. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Surangi Mataji. So now I have to unmute Varaha Rupa so that she can speak.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to all the glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas. Prabhuji, my interaction with Yashomatinandan Prabhu was when he was coming to Vrindavan, when his sons were in the Gurukul and I was the Gurukul nurse. So whenever he visited, he was always concerned for his children. So many times he also chastised me, saying that they were not getting enough prasadam and I was not taking good care of them, since he had given the responsibility that I should take care of him, the children, especially Balram, because Balram was very young at that time. And he was always concerned about Balram. And many times he would tell me that, can you take care of, the way he was walking, because he was very flat-footed, and while playing, he would always fall and injure himself. So he was very much concerned that I should take care of his health issues. And also whenever he came, he really appreciated my services also. He said, you're doing very nice service of taking care of children, and you have a very motherly affection for them. And also when Radhakund Mataji had her child in Vrindavan, in our guest house, somehow I was there, and in the middle of the night, I was called to take care, and somehow we managed to do it. And then after a few weeks when he came, he again appreciated the service. So he was very nice. He always appreciated all the devotees' services that they performed, and he always encouraged us. And I remember whenever we visited him in Ahmedabad also, he would always invite us to his room to have all the prasadam with him, all the meals. And he was again very concerned. He was very happy that I was taking care of my mother. And he said that was a very nice responsibility you have, because you have to take care of your elders very nicely, especially if they're a Vaishnava, you're a Vaishnava. So I very much am blessed by his blessings. And I'm very thankful that he has been part of our life, because he loved my father very much also. And it will be very hard to not have him around in his Bapa form. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Okay, Nandu, I'm unmuting you. Okay, Nandu and then Kishori.
Jai, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Please, go ahead. You have the floor.
I just want to take this opportunity to pay my humble obeisances to all the great Vaishnavas who are gracing this event. And really, I feel so much gratitude at this time towards my father for the upbringing he has given us, for giving us Krishna in our life, which is priceless. That for me is unparalleled. It cannot be given by any amount of money or any amount of fancy education. So that for me is my dad's greatest. I feel so grateful for this. And as of these 2 days that have gone by, it's just so much churning going on inside, because I've not really had anyone in my life that I have really, I mean, other than, yes, very few people, very few deaths in my life, and nothing so close as my dad. I mean, as I'm sure everyone can relate, it's a very, very life-changing event. For me, what stands out about my dad the most is that there was no concessions. There was no concessions. Just because he's my dad or I'm his son, didn't mean that I had any special concessions wherein like qualification is not needed. So I like being programmed with this idea of parenting wherein there is a certain kind of deservingness of a child from the parent. You see, well, you're my dad, so you owe it to me, kind of thing, you know? This or this kind of attitude that's, I don't know, I might have picked it up in Hollywood or Bollywood, but now after he's gone, I'm realizing how he was always very heavy and very straight and very like the guru aspect. You see, like, even though it is uncomfortable and even though it is not something that would make our relationship easy, you know, we would always, you know, because I wanted certain kind of, you know, so-called normal leniencies, you see, and because my dad had a, you know, his loyalty, it showed to me that first loyalty of my father was Srila Prabhupada and his mission. After that were all other loyalties. And if I was able to align myself to the loyalty of Srila Prabhupada, then everything was available. But if I was to align myself with my own personal wantings or my own personal agendas, then it was very, very straight and forward that, you know, you're always welcome to come here, but I'm sorry, I cannot facilitate your aspirations or your wantings. So it was, and this one principle, it was not because I'm, you know, I'm his son or anything, that there was any kind of, he wished, I could see, like towards the end, I could see that he wished that I would do the right things. I would align my allegiance to Srila Prabhupada. But unfortunately, you know, wisdom sometimes comes later. For me, especially, I'm very wise in retrospect. But so, anyways, I just wanted to honor my father for being the guru, the teacher, the unswerving teacher, you know, the totally dedicated teacher. So that for me is priceless, and this whole event of losing him right now is bringing out so much love and appreciation for a pure Vaishnava, a real Vaishnava who did not have special leniencies at the cost of Srila Prabhupada's mission. There was no leniencies. It was you follow or else I love you, but I can't do anything for you. You know, it's just like, this is a Vaishnava. And I'm telling you, I could call him anytime. He would pick up anytime. Even after any argument, he would not hold on. He would pick up. He would answer. That I mean, for me, that is, you know, that's a loss for me, you know, to see now I don't have that anchoring, that grounding, that constant feeling in the back that you have a guide, you have someone that you can ask your questions to, or you can, you know, at least count on, you know. But at the same time, he's very straight, very, very straightforward, and very yeah. Srila Prabhupada was his one and only spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada was his mission, his life, and you can see it. He lived simply, and he gave his whole life to this mission of Srila Prabhupada. And for me, that is a great inspiration. I only pray and I wish that I can have 1/10 of that kind of dedication to the orders of the spiritual master. Because right now my eyes are open, you know. It took me a while, but I see, I understand this glorious path of dedication to the orders of the spiritual master. So, sometimes it takes a good kick to wake you up, And this is one of those wake-up calls, and I am so grateful to this great family of spirits, this great family of devotees, this great family of Srila Prabhupads. I bow to all the devotees, all of you here. Please, please bless me. Bless all of his children, that we may also serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. That's our blessing. That's our prayer, And having said that, I feel so much gratitude to my father, to my parents, to my mother. I also want to mention one thing. My mother and my father both have worked their life for ISKCON Gujarat. Yes, my mother as well. It is, she gave her life, her everything. So did my father. And they are my gurus. I cannot do better than them. So we try and, slowly it takes time, but even the lame will climb the mountains and the dumb will recite poetry by the grace of the Vaishnavas and Sri Guru and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Please bless me. I just pray. I want to take this opportunity to pray to all of you Vaishnavas. Please bless us so we may also follow in your footsteps, follow in the footsteps of this dedication to the orders of the spiritual master. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandu. Thank you, Nandu. Matri Devo Baba, Pitri Devo Baba.
That is, yeah, I heard it 100 times, but Prabhu, right. It will enter when the Lord so desires, and it is entering.
No, you're showing that, so that's good. Acha, Murli Prabhu Vaishnav Maharaj is standing behind you.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sandhibhya vacha patitanang pavanabhyo vaishnavabhyo namo. So, since 3 hours altogether we are hearing the glorious activities and qualities of His Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhuji. How he joined in, I heard that he joined the movement in 1972 and he passed away in his 72 years. And I think he almost, when he joined, he was young, 24 years old, I think so. And by the mercy of Prabhupada, by his empowerment, he took Prabhupada's mission as his life and soul, and almost gave his whole life, rest of his life, after meeting Prabhupada till his last breath. He was leading his life as a powerful general of ISKCON Gujarat. It's not just a loss of our ISKCON community or Vaishnava community. It is a great loss which cannot be fulfilled to ISKCON Gujarat and especially to ISKCON Ahmedabad. I saw how the local devotees, so many congregations, so many members, they have so much love and affection for him. So that's why I was telling that we can make another glorification ceremony here for the local devotees. So already time is over. We cannot delay all the senior members. So they have already glorified with them heart. So now the local devotees I will request them if they agree, we can do maybe tomorrow here. So all 22 days, Grace Jashomatinandan Prabhu ki, I think in Aswin Shukla Ashtami, Durga Ashtami, in Navaratra, this Ashtami Tithi is all the Indians, those who knows about this Navaratra, they know that Ashtami is a great Tithi when Durga ji was killing Sumha then just before Rama got killed. So in this glorious Ashtami Tithi, so Prabhuji has taken his journey from this world to join Srila Prabhupada. Sri Jasomatinandan Prabhuji ki Savet Prabhupada.
Thank you, Vaishnav Maharaj. Of course, we've run out of time, but we'll extend the time.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, Vasugosh Prabhu and Murli Prabhu. You should be speaking, both of you, but I do want to take this opportunity to just clarify a few things. Passing of Pitaji has been hard for all of us, but in different ways. I can see how ISKCON Gujarat is mourning, and devotees all over the world are feeling a very specific type of pain. But as a family member, it's a little bit different. as you know, that even in Srila Prabhupada's life, his married life and his spiritual life, they're different things. And although my father is a pure devotee, you know, in all senses of the word now, when we look at his life, his greatest asset and strength was his complete surrender to his spiritual master, which will purify his entire existence. And we have seen that in his passing, and yet he was a difficult person to live with. And I would like to just acknowledge my mother and especially my brothers, because they had a very difficult upbringing, not because of Pitaji, but they spent almost 10 years in Gurukul, and in ISKCON Gurukul, which failed them, unfortunately. It's not ISKCON's fault, it's not Krishna's, it's not Pitaji's fault, it's nobody's fault. But I request all the Vaishnavas to look upon them with kindness and pray for them, pray for us, because we need the healing. And in the same vein, we want to glorify Pitaji, because like Nanda was saying, he did the right thing. He followed his guru's instructions, and any damage that happened was karmic, to say the least. But we must, as Vaishnavas, we have compassion, and we must acknowledge the damage. So I pray that we can be forgiven and we can be encouraged and supported in this journey forward, because we all want to serve in Srila Prabhupada's mission. That is what Pitaji has trained us. That's in our DNA. You know, I remember going on Harinam Sankirtan, hours every Sunday Maha Sankirtan. Who remembers from ISKCON Ahmedabad? Murli Prabhu remembers. Mummy would go, Mummy, actually, Pitaji is getting all the credit, he should. But Mummy was the one who nagged him. Every Sunday, let's go on Harinam. And Nanda Bhaiya, for hours, he would bang on the mridanga, sing till his voice was lost. This is the heritage, this is the legacy that Pitaji has left us. And we cannot sleep at night unless we're thinking of how to share Krishna. As you can see from Nandu's page, and in some humble attempt, we're trying to share. But that is what he left us, not hugs and birthday presents and holiday vacations. So it was tough growing up. It was very difficult. And some of the children, you can see Rupa, he's got mental problems. It's karmic. We're not trying to blame anyone, but we must understand that to grow as a community, ISKCON as a community, there's children and women. They should not be forgotten. They should not be, otherwise the damage will be too much. We should learn from this first wave of devotees who had to give their every waking breath. They had to offer that to lay the foundation. But we must learn from the mistakes to not forget the children, to not neglect the women. So my humble request to any leaders listening to this, that I know we are on the same page. I can see so much that ISKCON is doing to rectify those mistakes. So I beg you to forgive the children who were collateral damage, not to judge them, and to empower them to please look at them and think, how can I engage them? How can I call upon Balaram and Nandu and Rupa and Shyam, and what can I do? What role can I give them? Where in this ISKCON movement that they grew up in. Nandu's being very brave to acknowledge that Pitaji did not compromise. He didn't say, I am the temple president, therefore Nandu, you will be. No. Nandu, Nandu's Nandu. He has a very unique streak, but they are awakening now. They want to serve. They are trying to prove themselves. And I beg you to give them a chance and support them and help them find their place. Now that Pitaji is gone, he was the anchor. He was the only thing that held this family together. Now we look to you, ISKCON. We look to you to guide your children, the 5 boys. And I know some of you will want to blame my mother and think that, oh, she's abandoning them. And you don't understand these things. If you have that view, I please beg you to rethink that. This is not the situation. Please forgive. Please forgive. Please understand that we shouldn't judge anyone. We don't know what they've been through. I don't want to talk about too many things, but I know I'm supposed to make this brave. Another thing I really want to touch upon is that 2 devotees mentioned that Pitaji was the main proponent for against being the Gopi Bhav Club, against Narayan Maharaj. And I want to clarify that, because when I was there with him in February, he not only regretted it, but he told me that when he saw Narayan Maharaj in the Calcutta airport, he did Shashtang Pranam to him, because even though, as many devotees have said, if you have a disagreement, Siddhantic disagreement, there's no room for anyone to do any Vaishnava aparadh. So he recognized that in himself, and he felt very bad for causing pain to Narayan Maharaj and causing this big rift amongst devotees, that we point fingers and we have this bhed bhav. We are all under the shelter of the Gaudiya movement, and some other devotee commented that actually the downfall of this family was this Pitaji used to be very outspoken for a lot of things, and people got hurt, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally. But he apologized, and later on in his years, if you see his demeanor and his mood, he was completely against any form of Vaishnava aparadh. So we must be very careful. I asked him once, should I speak out against women Diksha Gurus? Because from his training, I have understood that that's not what Srila Prabhupada wanted. And he said, no, Kishori, that is not our place. We let the GBC do that. So it is an understanding. It is no matter how much he disagreed with the GBC resolutions or any individual, like you've seen many devotees share, again and again he said, even if you disagree, that is no excuse to disrespect. Meaning it is better to keep your mouth closed than to commit a Vaishnav aparad. Because in the name of these Siddhantic differences, we tend to, insult each other and offend each other. And from his life, the greatest lesson that I have learned, he never, ever, ever criticized anyone. In my 35 years with him, I never heard him gossiping about anyone or criticizing anyone. And I learned that it was not worth it. Vaishnava Parad is never, ever worth it. He did have a very soft side, and in the later years, it became even softer to the point where anything, he just was extremely tolerant. I know I'm running over time, but I beg, like Nandu Bhaiya said, beg for all of your forgiveness and your prayers and blessings for this family to overcome this tremendous loss. So please, yes, I saw that tweet by Narendra Modi ji. Thank you so much for sharing. He has tweeted about Pitaji's passing away. Narendra Modi on his actual
right.
So fantastic. Thank you
Message
so
from
much,
the Prime
Prabhu.
Minister. I didn't know about it, but since I'm hosting the meeting, I didn't want to cut you off, but you can finish.
No, I am finished. I want to hear from you, and thank you so much, Vasu Ghosh Prabhu, and all the devotees.
Thank you, Kishori. You are a mother of 4 children, and so you are also a deva, a devi for us, Matri Devo Bhava, Pitri Devo Bhava, and you always had the blessings of your father. So don't worry. And we live in Kali Yuga, and it's not a perfect world. So
no,
it's
that is what Pitaji. That I just want a final moment that is what I've learned from my father's life, that you separate the material from the spiritual by the verse that he quoted in his letter to Srila Prabhupada, Yasya Deva Devi Parabhaktir, meaning whatever your drawbacks and weaknesses, they will all be overcome simply by your faith in your Guru and by executing that. And he gave us that love for Srila Prabhupada, which we will be intended forever.
My computer has hung up, so I can't get this off the board. I don't know. So Moksha Lakshmi Mataji is there.
Oh, yay. Can we hear from her, please?
Yes, she wanted to speak.
I would like to, I would like to speak. Speak.
One. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we would like to thanks those devotees here from Ahmedabad temple who was very near serving at this time also, even in the COVID period, like Madhavanand Prabhu and Balaram Vallabh Prabhu. They were very near to Prabhuji. Even
yes.
Yeah,
please, very, very grateful to Madhavanand and Balaram Vallabh Prabhu. Yes,
yeah, we would like to appreciate their service, and also everybody should know that Madhavanand and Balaram Vallabh Prabhu were very near to Prabhuji, even in this situations, serving him without caring their life. So please, pray for them, for their,
Pray for them. Thank you so much, Murli Prabhu, for reminding us. They have been there as in place of us. So we owe them everything. We're extremely grateful to.
Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So you can't see me. I'm sorry because of this technical glitch. It's really crazy. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj won't speak because he's made a video. That video will circulate the link through Murli Prabhu. What can I say? I joined ISKCON. Jashomatinandan Prabhu was living in the temple. When I joined, that was February 1973. So that's almost 48 years ago. Just a few months short of 48. quite many long innings. We were together in ISKCON Chicago. And at that time, he was also very argumentative, but argumentative for the philosophy. And if there was any nonsense, he wouldn't tolerate. Even in ISKCON Chicago back in those days, there was a god brother he's still around, but he lives in isolation somewhere in the United States. I won't mention his name. And he said some kind of crazy things that he heard Krishna's flute and he heard the gopis singing, and Jashomatinandan Prabhu condemned that. I remember that. I remember meeting Radhanath Maharaj when he came to ISKCON Chicago, and I appreciated his remembrance of Jashomatinandan Prabhu at ISKCON Chicago. Radha Kund Mataji was in ISKCON Chicago when I joined. My sister used to do service with Radha Kund Mataji in ISKCON Chicago in 1973. But after I left to India and after Radha Kund Mataji left to Los Angeles and married Jasomatinandan in Los Angeles in 1973, my sister gave up whatever little Krishna consciousness she had, although she's, not inimical to ISKCON, but she's not a devotee. Anyway, moving on, Jasomatinandan Prabhu came back to Chicago in December 1973. And there was a book distribution marathon at the O'Hare Airport. Some people call it O'Hare Airport, but in English, it's O'Hare. So he distributed a lot of books, and he was on his way back to India. And he called me aside one day and he said, "Do you want to come to India?" And I said, "Sure, definitely." And so he apparently, Giriraj, as I recall, Giriraj Maharaj was recuperating from jaundice in his father's house in Chicago. And he spoke to Giriraj Maharaj and Satsvarup. Giriraj spoke to Satsvarup Maharaj, who was the GBC, and I got my permission to come to India. And when I arrived at Juhu in February 1974, Jasomatinandan Prabhu was there. And I'm going to try and make this quick, but it because of Jasomatinandan Prabhu that I came to India. But when I came to India, I was, as being a brahmachari at the time, I was attracted to Chutananda, then Swami, and his traveling program. So I went to Hyderabad. I'm making a long story short. But when I left Hyderabad, I came to Mayapur, and Jasomatinandan Prabhu invited me to come to Ahmedabad. That was March 1979. And so I came to Ahmedabad. I spent a year in Ahmedabad. My service was the same as it was in Hyderabad, which was enrolling life members. So going and meeting businessmen and making them life members. Jasomatinandan Prabhu made me the vice president. And he came to the United States for Janmashtami, 79. And I organized a very small Janmashtami at that rented house on Ashram Road on the bank of the Sabarmati River. And then in 1980, I came to Baroda. We had a Pandal program in Baroda. The late Sridhar Swami, the late Srinathji Das, and Jasomatinandan were the main speakers in that Baroda program in 1980. I stayed for 2 months. Then we had a big program in Surat. Anyway, I can go on and on. There were so many programs, Rath Yatras, temple inaugurations. Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, had a very good relation with myself and Jasomatinandan Prabhu. So he came to all the temple openings. Ahmedabad, it was 98. And Surat was a little later, 2001 or 2002, and Baroda was 99. Or was Ahmedabad 97? I can't remember. Somebody can remind me. So 97. So yeah, wow. 5 minutes is not enough to even scratch the surface of 41 years of working with Jasomatinandan Prabhu, as Kishori and Nandu and Radhakund Mataji didn't say it, but he was a tough nut. But because of his strength, he was able to accomplish remarkable things. Crores and crores and hundreds of crores, maybe 1,000 crores rupees properties he accumulated for ISKCON in India. The Baroda property he got from the government, at the Congress government at the time, 5.5 lakhs of rupees, and that's worth 200 crores today. What to speak of the Ahmedabad property? The Surat temple was donated. He got it. He remained the president till the last day of Surat. He was from Surat. His father used to work when I was running a little preaching center there in 1981, and his father used to visit us. We had a good relation with him. His mother actually spent the rest of her life living in ISKCON Ahmedabad, Jasomatinandana. So he believed in Matri Devo Bhava, Pitri Devo Bhava. He served his parents. He had his sisters there in Ahmedabad. He had 2 sisters in Surat. Sister's son in Toronto invited